Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of PR Patter. I'm Julie Livingston, president of Want Leverage Communications, and I'm here for a really exciting conversation on artificial intelligence. I want to introduce you to my amazing guests. Aaron Kwittken is founder and CEO of Prophet.ai. It's the first ever generative and predictive AI SaaS platform designed by and for the public relations community. The platform uses AI to help modern PR pros become more performative, productive, and predictive by generating, analyzing, and testing content that predicts earned media and sentiment. All the things that we're always vying for. Aaron is also CEO of the Comms Tech Unit for the Stagwell Marketing Cloud, a suite of AI SaaS solutions for PR, social media, and content creators. So welcome, Aaron. I know you're going to tell us a little bit about your backstory in a minute. A serial connector, Faye Shapiro launched CommPro, a B2B digital media platform with the mission to become an educational resource for anyone seeking the tools they need to build and promote their company message, because successful companies need to be able to tell their story effectively. The content and events offered via CommPro provide the foundation for a company's success. And topics include artificial intelligence, blockchain, cryptocurrency, to crisis communications, digital marketing, and financial comms. So welcome to you both. I'm really excited about this session because I have dipped my toe in the water of AI. I mean, you have to today. And we all use it, even though we may not even realize it. LinkedIn, certainly, where I do a lot of my work, is continually introducing new AI tools. They can now even write posts for you. I'm very mixed about that. But so let's start by learning a little bit about your backstory. So Aaron, why don't we start with you and tell us a little bit about how you started Prophet and more about your background.
Well, I'm going to start. Thank you. And thank you for having me on, Julie, and with my friend Faye. I'm #1 president and board member for Fan Club. So Faye's the ultimate connector.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, vice versa, Aaron Kwittken.
What people don't know is, like, when we were getting on earlier, I said that, Faye knows when a volcano is going to erupt before a volcano actually erupts. So she knows everything. But so very, very briefly, if I can do this, I've been in the business for 32 years. I'm not a tech guy, even though I'm dressing kind of like one today. I'm a PR person, corporate reputation management, crisis issues, brand purpose. And I love our trade craft. About 4 years ago, I felt as though AI would be super important, albeit even consequential, in our business to help us perform better. Our business is a business based on gut instinct, sometimes obviously also relationships. And I'd like to replace guessing with knowing using data. How do I know who's going to be interested in my story idea? And how do I make my story more interesting? The first is predictive. The second is generative. People thought I was absolutely insane when I said I was going to leave my day job as an agency founder and have someone succeed me in my former agency called KWT Global and kind of focus on AI. I think this is probably one of the most exciting, most pivotal moments in our business, in our industry.
It's kind of like we're starting, like the first time we used email, right? It's so revolutionary. It's going to change everything.
It is. And, I often say that our business is one of innovation starvation. Email probably was the last major innovation to kind of impact our workflow and our productivity and our ability to perform. Just one caution, I'll start with this, which is generative AI, like you said, having somebody write a post for you, whatever, is completely overhyped. That is not where the value is. It's cool. It's interesting. That's not where we started. It's really about using AI to predict, to help, understand and thwart threats or, brand safety, lean into trends, understand which audience will engage in what type of content. The generative stuff will settle down. It'll calm down. Nobody is going to replace us. It'll help us in the same way that an assistant or intern can help. It's not going to replace us.
No, you still need humans. You need the human touch in what we do. Absolutely.
I certainly hope so.
Faye, tell us a little bit about how you got started with CommPro. because this is like a go-to platform for any communications professional. If you're looking for information about what's going on in the landscape of across industries, Compro is your place.
Julie, thank you. And Aaron, the mutual admiration. I am your roadie and president of your fan club. Thinking about, and it's great to be here today, thinking about starting Compro more than a decade ago, there are a lot of similarities of then and now specific to AI and its impact on this industry and people being risk adverse. Compro's mission when we started this, I'll never forget this. I've grown up in this industry, had the great good fortune of being mentored by people like, and they've since passed on, the greatest generation in PR, like Dan Edelman, Al Golan, Harold Burson.
Wow.
And being publisher of Trades, Jack O'Dwyer's newsletter, the Bulldog Reporter, launching the Daily Dog. So my history is this industry and watching the evolution of this industry. And when we talked about in the intro the impact of email on this industry and the different silos and such. So when we were thinking, when I was with Bulldog Reporter, I was thinking about having a conversation with Harold Burson, the man who brought together advertising and PR. And he said, kid, it's time for a change in this space. It's time to break down the silos and provide a platform and communication and education for people across the communications disciplines. And you can't be risk adverse and show people they cannot be afraid of change. And that's why Compro was started. Compro started to be this platform where we're talking about the big issues and about the changes that are needed. And this past year, actually a few years of working with Aaron Quitkin, the man who dubbed the term comms engineer we're going to delve into, has been extraordinary for Compro and our community. Aaron and I, for example, this past year did a roadshow of events talking about generative AI, about what Prophet is doing, and really tapped into his innovation. In your description of Aaron Quitkin, I think at the heart of it, he's an innovator, Aaron, not just a communicator. You are leading the charge. And of the many questions we encountered from the thousands of people this past year in the events we did in Chicago, Los Angeles, DC, in New York, people want to know, they know they need to address artificial intelligence and its impact on what they're doing, but they're not quite sure yet how to grasp it. And I look forward to this morning hearing your thoughts about where we are today versus a year ago when you first introduced the topic.
Oh my God. The world has changed so much since a year ago. It seems like forever ago. So, Aaron, my first question is, how can communications professionals view AI as an ally for public relations, not an adversary? Because a lot of people I know are just freaked out. And I think a lot of it is because they just don't know exactly what AI can offer them in terms of predictiveness, and being able to target media more effectively, do research. So I would love you to explain that. As Faye was saying, as you were saying earlier, we're an industry of innovation starvation, right? And so this is the next step, the next phase that we all must embrace.
If you widen the aperture just a bit, historically we sell people and process, whether you're in an agency or you're in-house. And trust me, I'm guilty as the next person. I have created all sorts of fun processes to how to get to the best narrative and how to come up with something super resonant with the right audience. And that's still very important. What we haven't done is adopted a mentality of people, process, technology. And that's where comms engineering comes in. And I think agencies of the future, agencies of the now, to comms departments of the now are incorporating tech stacks, and they're weighting them not as a cost center, but as an investment. And that's a huge cultural shift inside of our business. And it's going to take some time. It means that you need to be comfortable with data and actually recognize that data, because that's what we're really talking about right now, is your friend. Because we're computing words now for generative. That's fine. But we're also using that data to help backstop historically what I said before has been an industry of instinct, right? And
And
communication
fear of data.
yeah, because we always like to joke, like people conflate data with math. Like, I don't do math. Well, this is not math. This is how do we become a little bit more declarative in understanding whether or not a story is going to land, where it's going to land, how it's going to land. Otherwise, here to date, we just don't really know. So AI can do that because AI is iterative. Our business is iterative. It's almost like we have a tool that's helping to iterate alongside of us to help us perform faster, but we shouldn't just focus on speed because that could be dangerous, or workflow. I hate the whole automation thing because we're in a business of articulation.
Right.
But it is going to be faster, but also can we perform faster and better? And will this be the same kind of force multiplier that email was, interestingly, but at a higher level? And will it even force a business model change? I mean, like, I'm a recovered agency guy. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go back to agency. I probably will one day because I love the trade craft. I love consulting, but I also see how it's hybridized right now. And what's interesting about the old agency model is that we take the long way of doing things because that's how we're compensated. But actually, if we can do things faster and be compensated for outcomes, not outputs, everybody wins. There's a mutuality there between a corporation or a client and an agency. And I think that AI is going to force that. I really believe that.
Wow. So what are and what will be, what do you see as being the most practical use cases for the communications field?
I think it's all right now. It's really about prediction. It's about iterating on content that you're creating, or you might be co-creating with a generative tool. And there's plenty of generative tools out there right now, and trying to figure out what's going to land and with what impact. It's predicting who's going to be interested in my pitch. Forget about press release generators. Those are, can I curse on this? Those are BS.
Yes, you can.
Actually, press release generators writ large, unless it's for a small business, it's actually offensive that people would even create one for large enterprises, because that's like less than 1% of what we do. It's all about the art of the pitch. AI is going to force more perfection and greater placements in the art of the pitch. That's really why I built Profit. I believe in this concept this year. If last year was the year of the communications engineer, which it still is, this year is going to be all about vertical AI and private AI. It's how do you ring fence your content so you can stay compliant and you can also stay on the narrative that you created and create a little bridge to what's resonant in the marketplace. That's the art of what we do as PR people, right? And how do you ring fence that so you're not violating copyright, that you're staying compliant, and that you are improving your ability to engage with your key stakeholder audiences. That is private AI. And I think, people call it custom GPT, whatever it is, that's
Right.
going to happen this year. And it's all about verticalization.
Faye, what are people saying on Compro about AI? I mean, you sort of always have your ear to the ground. You talk to people from across the industry. What is their response to it? And maybe how they're using it.
It's a great question. And it's one that I'm going to answer with a question to both you and Aaron.
Okay.
There's still that risk aversion attitude that needs to be overcome. And I'm wondering within the agency world, if there is a willingness, what tools are you looking to? What resources, what kind of conversations are you having within your organizations that address the willingness people to start working with AI tools and build that into what I think we're calling structured storytelling?
Or unstructured, right? Only in that, the beauty of AI is you can dump a lot of ugly data, just word fragments, segments, things like that, into a blank slate, and it can try to craft hallucinations about, by the way, a good thing, as long as there's a human that's the editor in chief. Faye, I'm sorry to jump in, but you and I have known each other a long time. But what's interesting is agencies are reacting in a kind of stereotypical way. They're like, oh, it's like when social media came on the scene. They're like, we can't have people on Facebook at work. I'm like, well, but clients are going to want to be on Facebook and Twitter or X or whatever. It was so we're kind of ridiculous now. I look back on it. Even I was one of those guys. I'm like, no Facebook at work. So agencies are like, oh, here are our guidelines. We need to come up with a committee. We need to study this. That's important. That's great. And then the larger holdcos are now like, oh, we could do this. We can build this. We can do this ourselves. Some of them can. Most of them won't be able to. Why? Because if they are a publicly held company and they're not sequestered in their own kind of unit, they're going to very quickly recognize that software is not set it and forget it. Software is a 24/7 endeavor. You're constantly enhancing, updating, and securing it. And it is expensive because you have to maintain it, and that's going to eat into EBITDA. So what does that mean? It means that eventually, if you're not going to have your own kind of lab to be able to create this, you need to co-create. You need to work with vendors. You need to work with partners. You need to actually customize what you're doing. And we need to get over the whole us versus them mentality. We're the only industry where it's like, winner take all. Like, Cision is the #1 platform for everything. No, it's not actually. No platform, including Profit, is the #1 platform for everything. That's impossible. You can't be good at it all. You need to actually put it together into a tech stack.
How do you pick the right? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry, if I may, completely agreed.
Sure,
and I don't want to make this plug, talking about co-creations, there needs to be a willingness to play well to one another and find balance, being able to plug in where there's great mutual support. And one of the things that Compro has done, and what we're hearing, because we are inundated, the important message that I want to share is we've been inundated with people writing about AI and the fear of losing their jobs. And this is what you have to do. You have to have the conversation within agencies. You have to be talking internally. We're going to be, if we don't embrace it, if we don't come up with our own solution, as Aaron is saying, we will be left in the cold. So one of the things that Compro has done, speaking under co-creations, we started a new label for content called Co-Creations. It's part of Compro, where we're addressing a lot of these issues specific to new partnerships and new ways to factor in storytelling and just to start cost justifying your existence. That's the biggest question I hear. And Aaron, I heard this past year when we were on the road together, people are wondering, how do I validate my job? How do I validate my team? How the whole idea of billable hours, is AI going to be that conduit to rethink the whole agency billing model? Something that I know you've been talking about for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, Aaron and Faye, you talked about partners. How do you identify the right kinds of partners to develop your AI capabilities?
First, and what's most important is making sure that in our world, we call it InfoSec, information security. You make sure that your partner gives you all of their documentation, that they do something called penetration testing at least every quarter. And that's very simply where, we hire white hat hackers to try to hack our system. Because remember, you're uploading potentially and likely, material non-public information onto these platforms in the same way that you do for, a wire service, right? So you need to make sure that security is important, and also that there's an indemnification around, plagiarism and violating copyrights and things like that. There are a lot of cool tools out there that are becoming more and more mainstream. We're building it into our platform as well, as to make sure that if you are, attributing someone else's copy, that you're actually putting it into quotes, or that you're citing it, you're sourcing it, things like that. And also, I think it's important that you never work on a platform that will email a reporter from that platform. That is insane to me. It is super lazy. I think a lot of people do it. You should always go back to your native email environment, or however you communicate with reporters. Do not allow a platform to communicate with a reporter on your behalf, because then they have access to that information. It's like giving someone an opportunity to eavesdrop in your. And by the way, they're going to data mine that, and they're going to say, "Oh, we're going to use it for good because we're going to learn." Well, that's proprietary. That you own that. Very, very important. We don't talk about that enough.
That's great. What the hell is a communications engineer, and how do agencies of all sizes kind of develop that role?
So some of it's upskilling. Some of it is also making sure that in agencies' professional development initiatives, that people understand they're comfortable with learning how to put prompts together, whether they're trying to generate copy or content, that they can, that they're very comfortable looking at data around trends, and that they also have this mindset that before they do anything, before they send a pitch out, that they test the pitch. That's an culture shift, right? So to me, it's like pitching in the cloud.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, and remember, when we got into this business, I'm going to say this because we're a similar cohort. I used to actually read what reporters wrote. I would take my time. Back then, I would actually have to, pick up the phone and call them. Nobody talks to me. Nobody picks up the phone anymore. I remember my boss said, "What are you afraid of? They can't punch you over the phone." I'm like, well, that's true. That being able to take rejection and being able to pitch something verbally is a lost skill.
Oh
And
my
it's never
God.
going to come back. It just isn't. So
Yeah.
we're trying to replace that by going slow to go fast, right? We're going too quickly right now. We're just spamming the crap out of journalists. It's like throwing, darts at a dartboard, and we're sending press releases out. We're not sending pitches out. It's not everybody, but because I wrote for The Drum and for Forbes, I had my own podcast. I still get pitches, and they're terrible, and they're press releases, and they don't do the research. They don't customize it. They don't personalize it. So a lot of this has to be a mindset that you are using technology to test what you're doing before you actually do it. And interestingly, you'll be spending less time doing so and with greater effect.
Cool. So I have to ask you this, and I probably should have asked you earlier, but what led you to start Profit in 2020? Or was it before the pandemic? I'm just wondering.
I thought you were going to ask me if this is my natural hair color, because it is.
No.
That
That was my next question.
Yeah,
that was my
shine.
next question.
There was an internal competition at Stagwell. Stagwell merged with MDC. I'd sold my agency to MDC back in 2010. Someone named Mark Penn came over, created Stagwell, merged it with MDC, and he basically did this like internal Shark Tank type competition with all the agency heads, advertising, PR, every social. He said, come up with an idea that sits at an intersection of marketing technology. And I've been thinking about Profit for a long time. And I pitched it, and they said, well, whoever wins will have a healthy operating budget to create the MVP, the minimum viable product, which we created in 2020. During COVID, I was still managing the agency. I was also president of my temple at the time. So there's a lot going on. I was like an octopus. And then we commercialized it, and we started selling in 21. And we really had a great tailwind. In 23 was an incredible year. We have about 1,200 users on the platform and about 40 customers. So it's really been an incredible and very, very humbling, very, very challenging venture, because I'm trying to put everything that we do as the art of what we do and trying to back it with science and put it into a very intuitive, natural kind of workflow, which is very, very challenging. But I do believe it's the future.
That's great. So what are some small steps that people can take, comms professionals can take in getting more immersed in this space?
First of all, subscribe to Bloomberg's AI Journal. I think it's awesome. On LinkedIn, actually, and I think that you'll stay ahead. We have a newsletter called Sunday Brunch. If you go to our website, prprofit.ai, you can sign up for our newsletter, and it's all things. My favorite section is talk nerdy to me, just like talk dirty to me. I forgot to explain that for everybody. It's like a very practical application and guide to what's happening in both our industry, the media industry, and then outside industries with AI. Andrew Bruce Smith is somebody you want to follow, but also I would just say, play around. Do not ever put
experimentation. I think is at the heart of it.
Just don't, ChatGPT is a toy. It's fun. It's becoming better. People are now creating custom GPTs, but just be careful and don't put anything that is confidential unless you sign a large kind of SLA or agreement. I know it sounds obvious, but people get caught up in it. Also, we haven't talked about this, but play around with tools like Beautiful.ai. I put together my PRSA presentation in about an hour. It wasn't perfect. It got me 60-70% of the way there before I had a professional designer kind of make it a little bit better. Beautiful.ai is a great presentation builder. I think that Adobe has made great strides with images as well. And also it's ring fence, it's copyright protected. So play around both with visual, with video, with text, all these kind of tools that are out there, and just enjoy it and have fun with it. And you'll settle in, you'll figure out what's going to be the best tool for you.
And do you believe that is the best way for agencies to dip their toe into have everybody on the team kind of experimenting in a certain way, or is that really the role of the comms engineer?
I think it's everybody. I don't think it's kind of like, I don't believe in like I only do social media. I only do.
Yeah.
Everybody should be able to do a little bit of everything. You'll find your super skill somewhere, right? But I think everybody should be able to do a little bit of everything. Everybody should be exposed to this because if you are a social media person, there are influencer platforms out there. We have one, it's called Profit Influence, where you're using AI to not just figure out for discovery, who's the right influencer for your brand, but also for compliance and brand safety. And there's a bunch of different platforms out there that can do that. So, we're talking about it more so in the earned space, but there's research, there's earned, there's visual, there's video, there's influence. There's all sorts of different applications of AI right now that are out there.
And
That's
I have
great.
a question, sorry, if I may,
Yeah, of course.
both agency folks. What is the generational acceptance of AI? We're talking about, and I think about people who come to our events, Aaron, we see from the top management to the practitioner to the assistant AE. What are the differences that you're seeing as far as the acceptance and embracing AI and tools within an agency or within an in-house team?
I hate to stereotype or to broadly generalize any cohort, but I will say that with some of the larger agencies, I think it's fear and complacency being replaced by greed. So senior people are going to be like, how can I make more money with fewer people? I'm just being honest.
Okay.
Originally, it was complacency and fear. And now it's like, wait a minute, can I actually hit my EBITDA goal? Younger cohorts, mid to junior, are recognizing that it needs to be a skill like any other skill so that they can have a job. Not because it's going to replace them. They recognize it's not going to replace them, but they recognize too that it's a skill set that they need in order to be able to land a job and a good job. So that's, I think, the differential. I was pitching this one very, very large agency. I will not say their name. And they're like, oh, this is so cool. They're like, we can't let any of our junior people see this or know about this. Like, really? They're already on it. Are you kidding? Like, we had a free version for a while and I know exactly who was on it. So, but that's all changing. It's all happening very, very quickly. The speed at which this is happening is amazing. But again, I would caution to not worry so much about the generative. I think the predictive stuff is exciting. And I also think that we're going to move from predictive. What's next is prescriptive and voice skills. And I think that's going to be really neat. You're already starting to see some of the voice skills, but prescriptive, meaning after you generate a piece of content, after you test it, can the AI tell you how to change it so that one or two reporters or cohorts or influencers are going to be more receptive to that message?
Wow.
The AI is going to be more prescriptive. We're not there yet. That neural network, that learning loop needs to actually be in full force. We're at the very beginning of it. But anytime I'm like, oh, we're 5 years away, it happens to be like a year away. Like I'm overestimating, or underestimating.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That is pretty exciting. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for being with me today and talking about this important topic. How can people get in touch with you, Faye?
Fayus at compro.biz.
And if they have ideas for content, to contribute content?
We welcome it. Editor at compro.biz or Fayus at compro.biz. We are always looking for content, both for Compro and for the new publication, co-creations.ai. I invite you to check out both of them.
That's great. And Aaron, how do people get in touch with you?
That island of Anguilla is just killing it on domain registries right now. Great place to vacation too. I'm Aaron.Quitkin at prprofit.ai or Aaron at aaronquitkin.com.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you both for your time today. And I'll see you all next time on another edition of PR Patter.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks.